Hi everyone, welcome to the Family Matters Show. I'm Benjamin Bryant and I'm an accredited family law specialist here at Bryant McKinnon Lawyers in Coffs Harbour. Today I'm joined with my business partner and accredited family law specialist Heather McKinnon. So what is your opinion, Heather, about fathers being alienated from their child or stepchild?
Okay, so this is a scenario that arises every day when you're doing children's matters, in that it won't necessarily be dad, it can be mum, that children are expressing clear wishes that they want to spend a certain amount of time with one or the other of their parents. When people who are new to family law ask me about children's matters, they often ask how much say does the kid get. So what I say to them is, once children are in high school, their wishes are really the main thing that we look at, because 100 years ago those kids had left school, had started having children and were down the mines. I mean, it's really important that parents understand once you have adolescence, you've got three people in the dispute. Kids of the age of high school students have very firm views, and those views need to be respected and taken into account when a decision's made by parents. The alienation problem is when we have a parent normally with some sort of disturbance, so they have an anxiety disorder and they're fearful of the world. They will sometimes influence their children to be frightened of the other parent. So that scenario is the one that we most commonly see. Obviously the other side of the coin is where one parent has done something in their parenting that means children are fearful of them. So they've exposed the children to family violence, substance abuse, mental illness. But people often think that lawyers somehow have the say in what happens with kids. It's important that everyone understand that when we're dealing with precious little ones in the court system, it's social scientists that really inform the decision making, and it is important to understand that if children are truly alienated from a parent, the psychologist or psychiatrist who prepares the expert assessment for the judge will normally pick that up. So for example, I act as an independent children's lawyer in these cases. So what's happened in the cases are that one or other party has raised before a judge that alienation's occurring, and the judge has said, I want an expert children's lawyer brought in, an independent children's lawyer. My role then is to sift through the issues, look at the school reports, the medical reports, psychological counselling notes, to get for the judge and the court expert as much information about the child as we can before that court expert then meets the family, meets the children, meets both parents, and then makes a determination over a long period of observation as to what's happening for the family. So at the moment, I have a case where a little one refused to go in the room with a dad, and the court expert has found that it's likely that that behaviour is as a result of the mother's anxiety disorder. So what we're now doing is investigating how frightened is mum of the world, and has that influenced the little one's perception of her other parent. So these cases are very complex, but we deal with them in a sophisticated way, not mum and dad filing affidavits saying this happened, this happened, this happened. It's much more finesse than that, and it takes a long period of time to really get a picture of what's happening in a child's life, to understand why resistance to seeing one parent might be there.
And you're talking at the pointy end.
Correct.
So independent children's lawyer, you're appointed by the court essentially because it's a tricky matter. There's particular allegations, and it's not straightforward. So that's at the pointy end. But I think we could also help the parents, either that's not in litigation, or perhaps at the early start of, at the early stages of litigation, but I would still point them towards the social science. There's plenty of literature and resources out there about parental alienation, and parental alienation is only in a small set of cases. Parental alienation is quite defined in what it is. Of course, there's ranges of alignment. Alignment of children, especially young children, infants, is quite normal. Even in intact families, parents that haven't separated, alignment, there's a preference for a carer. So I think it's important to know there's a big range of alignment, and up until you're getting to the point where you're at or estrangement or rejection, up to the point of parental alienation, when it's really that unequivocally that child has responses to a parent that is not based on their own experience and perhaps coming from something else. So I think it's a great idea for this viewer, but for all people thinking about parental alienation, to really do some online research and really dig into those resources, because there's plenty out there.
Yeah, and it is important when you start surfing the internet that you read quality. So if you go to our website, the legitimate research bodies in Australia, we have links to them. Don't start going into chat rooms and trying to solve your family's problems by listening to what somebody else did. You really need to get quality advice and understand what's happening. I noticed in that question, Ben, that the viewer was concerned that the lawyer was recommending that they accept less time than they want.
Yes, that's the second part of my question.
Okay.
You're jumping the gun there. Right, the second part of the question is that this viewer is trying to get more than every second weekend or alternate weekend, as we say. I have the first court date coming up on the 6th of May, so it sounds like it's a Coffs Harbour circuit. My current solicitor is urging me to ask for a lot less with the children than what I really want. What should I do?
So what will happen if the parties have started into litigation, when the matter gets before the judge on that first occasion, they will normally order that the court consultant, the social scientist that we're talking about, meets with the parents to get an understanding of what the issues are and to give them some feedback on what's developmentally appropriate. So there's a big myth out there that children should do week on, week off. And we have to give parents an understanding that developmentally different children require different time. So if this case involves, say, a baby, then the time that the baby spends with both parents will be totally different to a high school age child. So it's important to understand that the first time you go to court is only the beginning of organising expert help so that both parents get some input from a court consultant. And many parents, when they get that input, completely calm down and realise that they can move forward in a child appropriate way. So if the lawyer's recommending that you start slowly, it could be for very good reasons. So it may be we've got a very young baby, or it might be that a parent's coming out of drug rehabilitation, or they've had a mental health issue for a couple of years, and the lawyer's recommending a slower approach at the beginning to build up the confidence not only of their children but the other parent. So again, without a lot of background, we're only giving that general overview, but it's not until you get input from a court consultant that you really understand as a parent what the issues are and get a roadmap moving forward.
And I suppose what we don't know in this particular matter is the age of the children, where they're up to developmentally, the roles, the carer roles of each of the parents, what the communication issues are like. It's funny that you mentioned the 50-50 myth. I think it was Bruce Smart, social scientist, I think back in 2005 or something. He set out this list of criteria, and there's I don't know, maybe a dozen things of when 50-50 would be appropriate. And in that criteria is things like, the household have a good income, that the parents can communicate really well, and that the child, is okay with it themselves. So this whole raft of things, and I was reading that thinking, is this ever appropriate? Do we ever see families, especially in the litigation system, where that's appropriate? You don't know. It's each matter is different. Of course, each child is assessed differently. And what I tell our clients, Heather, is that in absence of allegations of family violence or child abuse or other risk of harm factors, then all the other parent, the gatekeeper parent or the primary carer, all they're winning is time. Okay, because in the absence of those things, the Act says that that person will receive, the other parent will have a meaningful relationship with their child. So even though there may be all these other things going on and you have to start small, it's only a matter of time, okay? And to build it up, and so the further assessment can be had, along the way.
And my plea to people watching and who have got children is, the one universal piece of research is that the worst thing that children are exposed to during the breakdown of their marriage is conflict between the parents. It doesn't matter what decisions are made. If it's conflictual, it will have lifelong impacts. You don't want your kids to end up in, distress as adolescents. You have to work calmly and focus on what's best for them, not what's best for us. If you go with that intention, you'll find that you will make much better decisions for your children. I often get, shift workers who say, I want 50-50, and how do I get it? Like, how am I going to have the kids when I'm working overnight? And I say, chill, you don't have to have them. It's not a shaming in public. It's about how can you and the other parent work out your complex working lives, the children's lives, everybody's needs, so that everything's calm. We don't want chaos, and we don't want kids growing up not knowing whether they're, going one way or the other. So don't have everyone putting their 2 cents worth in it as parents. You sit down and work out for each little personality you're responsible for, how will they be able to navigate the new world of 2 households?
And I think, Heather, the only thing that I would add to that really is that conflict is damaging to all children. It's not just in the context of separation. It's not just if you're at court. Conflict is damaging to children in intact relationships as well. We have a variety of viewers. Clients come to see us at different stages in their life. So I think it's really important to remember that as well. Just keep that in mind. So just a reminder, guys, that if you want to send us a message for Heather and I to answer on our show, please don't hesitate to email us at familymatters@bryantmckinnon.com.au, or of course you can shoot us a message on Facebook and we'll respond to that.